check out this spot right here. This is an issue. So the water runs downhill and it kind of tries to go as far as it can. And I got a problem because I've got this spot where the water's collecting. So something has to be done about that. So it's about a week later and it has dried up. But I am planning, as you can see, I'm planning to make a big drainage ditch so that the water, when it comes down from my yard and goes across here and collects in this area here, it'll run all the way around the shed and all the way, there's the tops of some plastic barrels, all the way around this way and out past all my plastic barrels that I'm working on, and go out down next to the driveway. Well, as you can probably imagine, that's going to be a lot of soil to take out. So I've got to come up with a plan for what am I going to do with my soil. So my plan is, I just sort of built well, I'm in the process of building a raised bed in my backyard. I thought this would be a good time to garden anyway. I got a lot of time on my hands, so this is what I'm building. If you look, so it's got the, we got a fence here, and I'm just trying to mimic the fence. Put a raised bed up. Right now it's full of grass. I'm working on tilling it. Right here, just flipping that turf over. I'm going to flip the rest of this turf over, and I'm going to be putting some seeds in there. That was that, and unfortunately the battery went low on my camera before it saw me finish the tilling of the garden, but you know, you can see here it's all done, right, all the way across. So now the next step is, now I'm going to be edging along here and digging out here where this little water spot is, where it collects, so that I can direct that water around here and all the way down the edge of the front of the shed and all the way around the corner. So I'm almost done my ditch. Dug out all the way around the whole shed. Woo, it's windy today. And all the way down here, it goes under my ramp, all the way around this part of the shed. And it will finish up here. I'm going to make a little pad for my trash cans. So that'll be the edge of the beds, going all the way around that way. So the way that this works is that the ground is higher here, and it goes downhill and stays pretty much level all the way across the front of the shed, although the hole gets deeper because the soil is higher on this side. So it's really kind of going against the natural flow of the lawn to get it out of here. Ready to bring in the felt, put down on top of it, and then it's going to be gravel all the way along that entire ditch. I hate using gravel for landscaping because it gets soil in it after about 5-6 years, and then you're picking weeds out of the soil, and that sucks. But we need gravel because gravel will allow water to run through it. So I actually changed the contour of the land. It used to go out across the driveway before I put my shed here. And so now the ground goes downhill and goes all the way along the shed and around the corner and down the driveway on that side of the shed. So that's going to make it a whole lot better because the water will mostly get a chance to infiltrate all along this ground here, because the gravel will let the water go through and touch the soil, so most of the water will go down there. And then but the drain tile that I put in there, which is a pipe that has little holes in it that lets water go into it, will actually encourage any standing water to just run down that pipe and around and down the driveway. So small storms, probably no water will come out of that pipe because it'll all percolate into the soil like I really want it to. But when it's big storms like we had during the beginning of that video last week, then I need to kind of give it a way to get around my shed. I was worried that it was going to get underneath the shed and be a big body of water under the shed and cause rotting in the bottom of my shed. because the whole floor is wood. I don't have a concrete floor in my shed. That would be nice, but it was too expensive. So I built a wood floor in my shed and it'll rot away. So what did I do with all that soil? Well, I started showing you earlier, I made myself a garden. So this is a raised bed. That means that the soil, there's a retaining wall here that I guess that's about 12 inches. And basically I took some old free lumber that I had sitting around, and then I took all that dirt and I put it inside of here. So I've got some plans to put some vegetables in there, and I can't wait to do that. But first I'm gonna get some veterans compost. That's the compost from all the uneaten food that Southampton. Whoa, check this out. I'm in the middle of a hailstorm in the middle, or is it snow? I don't know. But we're getting hit by something right here in the beginning of April. That's pretty cool. But anyway, that veterans compost is uneaten food that students in Southampton have thrown away, and they've turned it into compost, and it's going to ensure that my vegetables get all the nutrition that they could possibly want. By the way, there's Daisy, the old 18-year-old dog. She just keeps on going. She's getting skinnier and skinnier, but she's a good old girl. You're a good old girl, aren't you, Daisy? Yes, you are. So what you got here is a deluge. That is a very heavy rainstorm. This is water coming out of my rain barrel. This is my rain barrel that's overflowing. Going down, going out across the driveway just like I want. There's water coming off of my shed so fast that it's not even going all down my drain there. But this is the part that I wanted you to see. Even though the water is really filling up the backyard, it's not pooling in that area in front of my door. Especially when you think about the fact that there's going to be about 4 inches of gravel sitting there. It should be nice and dry. The water will be under the gravel, heading around the shed and going out the other way. You can still hear the rumbles of thunder in the background. If you look, I got a bunch of water that did collect here, and it is running into my ditch. So if we check this out, you can actually see the water flowing right here. It's flowing straight on down this way. The water keeps on. Look, you can see there's a current right there, right? And it's running all the way around. See how it's filling up the ditch? It's filling up the ditch where the pipe is. But the water's going around a corner like this. And then I need to get some felt under this, but you can actually see in the cloudiness of the water that it's flowing exactly like I want it to, and straight out there. Now it does seem to be damming up out there, so I'm gonna go check that out. It's possible that I need to clear that out a little bit so that the water has a good way to escape down next to the driveway. Okay, so I'm out here by where the water comes out next to the driveway. And, you can tell that it is flowing, but you can also tell it's pretty high back there. I think I'm gonna remove some of this soil just so that the water has a chance to flow out better. The water is sort of damming up here where I didn't dig. I did dig back here. I need to make my ditch a little bit longer so it can flow down next to the driveway. All this is gonna have gravel on top of it too, because gravel lets the water go through, but it slows it down enough that it won't get too much sediment in it. You can tell there's a lot of sediment in that right now. That's mostly because it's bare dirt. It just got pounded by a heck of a storm. This is what we're trying to avoid here, guys. This runoff on the driveway, that's all dirt, brown stuff. That's what makes our water in our streams cloudy. And that water, well, if it doesn't stop before the bay, which, I mean, that dirt that's in the water, it's going to eventually go down and cause sediment to be in the Chesapeake Bay. Once it hits the Chesapeake Bay, it'll slow down. The water has so much energy in it right now that it's picking up that soil that's heavier than water, and it's carrying it along inside in the water column, if you will. With that energy of that water, it's scooping it and pulling more of it out. And but when it gets to the bay, the water sort of stops, slows down, and then the soil starts to get settled, and it's called sediment. That's why it's called sediment, because it settles. They also call this suspended solids. Suspended means it's between the top of the water and the bottom of the water, and it's suspended between the two. But it is actually heavier than water. So when there is not a whole lot of turbulence in the water keeping that stuff up in the soil, in the water, then the soil will actually settle and sit on the bottom, covering up SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation. It'll cover up oysters that we need. So, and it'll cover up crabs. Now crabs can shake it off because they can move around and get the dirt off of them, but oysters can't. And the oysters will get covered with a layer of mud and it'll kill them. So that's if there's enough soil. So that's what we're trying to avoid. We don't want to have a whole lot of sediment heading out into the bay. It's that erosion. The water's not terrible. Water's fine for the bay, obviously. The bay needs water, but it doesn't need extra soil going to the water. That's what we're trying to avoid. So this is engineering a solution to a problem, and it has several good impacts by doing something like this. We're trying to not let my shed rot out by letting water go underneath of the shed, and then we're also trying to reduce the sediment load that is carried by the water as it leaves and goes down to the Chesapeake Bay. I just discovered that I made a boo-boo. I left my gloves out during that rainstorm, and so they're soaking, dripping wet, and something that I thought was going to prevent me from getting blisters because I got these little teacher hands with no real callus on them. Turned out it's going to be probably causing blisters because it's so wet. So here's another engineering solution I'm going to try. We're going to see if this works. I got my my glove hooked up to my blower. You see that? And I'm thinking if I start this blower up, I might blow enough air through it that it will actually dry out my gloves, and maybe I can use them later today. Meanwhile, I'm just going to probably use my bare hands and get some blisters while I'm waiting for my gloves to dry. See how that works. Okay, so my blower's been running for a little while. I'm gonna see how it works. Wow, that feels really dry. It's definitely drying out. This is totally working. I think I'll get away with maybe only having to do a couple loads with no gloves, and then I'll have some dry gloves to try on in a minute. So I got a good start yesterday, did a bunch of the gravel. This is what it kind of looks like when it's done. Right here, this is the pathway that's going to be, but underneath there, you know, there's that ditch with the big drain tile running through it. This part over here still needs some gravel, and over there and all the way around the shed still needs gravel. So I'm heading off to the stone yard to get some more.
The word from Virginia Congressman Jerry Connolly. He and his fellow Democrats want to provide USPS with cash and debt forgiveness.
The areas that would be particularly affected would be rural.
Projections say it could drop by half by July, making matters even worse now as
So, figuring up my little pad here, and I'm going to put my trash cans on that. So Daisy and I were checking out the end of the the ditch, and we're digging that out so that when the water comes around this corner, it doesn't dam up like it did. This is that big gate that I had there. And while we're doing this, look what we found. So here's a cat. That's my cat footprint, but that is a raccoon footprint. I didn't know I had a raccoon. So now you're a water droplet. You fall from the sky. You land in my yard. You run across this ground here, and you keep on going downhill and downhill until you fall down into this gravel. This is what we've made. See, storm management can be pretty.